Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Mid Atlantic Championship Wrestling Review Series for the third of April 1982. We continue the series. Sergeant Slaughter continues to talk about wanting challenges. He wants Flair. He wants the returning eventual Wahoo McDaniels. He wants whomever he can get his hands on. He says he's tired of being disrespected, tired of his men being disrespected. Um, and then we go to the Briscoes. Briscoes continuing to talk about the tag team tournament, which they end up doing very well in. Also end up talking about Briscoe starting to talk about wanting Piper and other championships, wanting to be a championship level athlete, and also teaming with his brother. The Briscoes face off in this particular match with Enhancement Talent Team, which is Siebert and Miller. Really basic stuff. Lots of basic wrestling holds here, and of course Jack Briscoe, your former NWA champion, obviously getting a lot of mat time. Miller a bit more wily shoulder tackles, basic things there, super basic stuff, and then both Jack and Jerry kind of take turns. Flipping around the enhancement talent, Siebert takes the majority of the punishment. Miller does stand toe to toe with the Briscoes as well. A jumping foot stomp on Miller is another offensive maneuver. You'd be surprised that the kind of back and forth in this particular match, only because I would think the Briscoes, being such a major tag team throughout the 70s and early 80s, and with Jack Briscoe being a former NWA champion, you'd almost expect him to have a little bit easier time with two enhancement talents, but they do need to get time out of it. Obviously, the lock in of the figure four of Jack Briscoe, a pretty big thing there. Then we got promos along the way here. Simple maneuvers. Jake Roberts continues, I'm sorry, Jack Briscoe continues to talk about wanting to be a champion and wanting to be tag team champions with his brother. The tag team tournament for the NWA Tag Team Champions is a really big thing, and the Briscoes are wanting to test themselves against the best teams in the world. The tag team tournaments still continuing throughout the area as we continue to speak around. Bob Caudle, phenomenal in his efforts as a announcer, and we move to the next in series of matches here. Tim Horner and Tony Russo. Russo, an enhancement talent who really doesn't have a lot that he's challenging here. Horner still within his first couple years of his career. Side headlock takeover and basic stuff, gets some ride time. Horner stays in control of the majority of the match during the early stages. Russo does use power. He's got a little bit more power than his adversary. Takes his man down and tries to stay on him pretty simply. Nip up by Horner, and he manages to stay in control of the contest to the best of his ability for a little bit there. Horner goes back to the side headlock and basic maneuvers there, and ultimately there's a roll up and trying to get things going in a basic deal, bridging difficulties as Russo takes over with a bit more difficulties and actually tries to get a sunset flip. Horner cuts him off, does not get him in the area where he wants to go, and we see a sunset flip attempt, and ultimately rolls through. Horner eventually gets kind of an inside cradle type maneuver or a flipping cradle, and ultimately gets himself a victory there. We move to the next in the series of matches, more enhancement style stuff, which is kind of weird at the time, although this time it's not completely enhancement. Jake Roberts and Bill White. Bill White, a larger guy, and Roberts gets caught in some hammer locks and basic stuff. Roberts with a back elbow goes after his man, pretty simply put, and hard shots there. And White tries to take him down with almost a full body lock. Roberts manages to drop the leg on the arm and stays on the arm for several minutes. There is a roll up with Roberts still controlling the arm. Roberts continuing to get as much as he can out of basics there, and almost a MMA style armbar that Roberts fights over. Love the Mid Atlantic way in just that everything looks like a fight. It looks real. It looks tight. And White looks good. White looks like he could have moved on to be something more in the sport, the way that Jake Roberts is selling for him. White takes the majority of the match. I'd say he's got about 60-40. Workers who are out there listening to this certainly need to check out how Jake Roberts makes even an enhancement guy look like $1,000,000. Cinch up on the arms and real basic stuff going around in circles there. And White tries to get things going in a continual basis. White with the Irish whip gets everything he can. Jake Roberts continues to want to get rid of Sergeant Slaughter. Basically continues that fight. Also talks about some of the damages done by guys like Piper and continues that. Blackjack Mulligan wants things to even out for the future of the area. And again, we go to the highlights of Jake Roberts with a victory. Before we go into our next match, this particular contest is the contest that holds Rick Benfield, Terry Taylor. Terry Taylor has been regarded very well over the last little while. Taylor gets some ride time and basic maneuvers along the way there. Tries to tie up on the man and some simplistic maneuvers. Taylor hangs onto an armbar and they grapple over the arm for the next several minutes. Taylor certainly having a pretty decent amateur arsenal at the time. Drop kick under the chin. Taylor is successful. Also gets the flying forearm. There is a Mike Rotunda promo, and Rotunda's wearing a purple shirt and not exactly looking very tough, but talks about being a collegiate-style star, talks about wanting to test himself out against guys like Piper and all others, talks about being from Syracuse, so that story kind of theme runs throughout Mike Rotundo's run in wrestling, the Syracuse connection, which obviously it must have some truth to it. Ole Anderson and Stan Hansen against Tony Anthony and Ron Ritchie here. Ritchie kind of hangs on with Anderson a little bit. Anderson tries to muscle him around and send him back into the ropes. Anthony has been an enhancement talent in the area for quite a while. Anderson and Hansen work together, cut the ring off. Anderson obviously goes to work on the arm. Surprised that they give them this much time. There's about 6 or 8 minutes left in the program. Referee gets up in the face of Ole Anderson. Not exactly a wise thing there. Anderson with some body slams, stomps and kicks, but works over the arm continually, almost from the beginning. Hansen comes in with more brawling, and obviously the team of Ole Anderson and Hansen go at it. There is a confrontation as we close towards the end of the program with Jack Briscoe and Ole Anderson. Anderson tries to put him in his place. He still says he's the best in the world. Also, Sergeant Slaughter says he wants more challengers and more competition for his U.S. championship. He's been champ probably more than 6 months by this point. We'll be back with more right after this.